Hi, I'm Grace Houdek, and right now I am sitting outside of South Elgin High School with the Andrew Jenks.
Let's get started.
Yes.
So to plan everything out could take everything from a few days, a few weeks, a few months to a few years. So it all really depends. I think with documentaries, as much preparation as you can do is really beneficial, so that when you go out and you film, there's so many different things that can happen. You can be filming an event and something goes awry, or you're prepared for this one specific character that you're going to film and then they don't show up and you have to film someone else. So I think as much information you have so that inevitably things aren't going to go the way that you think, and you're ready for that switch in story or that change, and it's not as crazy or not that hard to deal with if you hadn't been so prepared.
And especially with documentaries, like, so much could go wrong because, you don't really know what's going to happen. So how do you, get around that? Like, if something, because, sometimes, filmmakers will plan things out in their head. So you expect something to go one way, but it doesn't. Like, how do you come back from that? Like, is that how much of it is a setback?
I think you have to look at that as, rather than thinking of it as, is that a setback, you almost have to embrace it and realize that in that moment, you're not going to know what that will lead to, but you have to sort of let it unfold as it does, and then realize that there will be a way in which maybe another story will unfold, and a lot of times that story is even better because it's real. And so I think anytime you're trying to force what you envision your story to be or what you want your story to be is when things don't end up working out, because you're then almost trying to work on a scripted project. And with a documentary, if you're not able to adapt or assimilate, you're gonna have a tricky time making a quality project.
I kind of want to talk to you about your college experience, because it didn't seem like the best thing for you. How did you handle that too? Because you kind of talked about it being very prestigious and not something you felt like you belonged in, kind of. I think you kind of had your own idea. How did you handle with being in such a prestigious film college, NYU, and not feeling like you should be there?
Well, I really just wasn't having a good time and ended up getting really depressed and kind of stopped going to class. And I think I realized that for me the healthiest thing to do was find ways to go and make my own projects. And so getting a couple of cheap cameras off of eBay, finding a nursing home that I could move into for free, gave me the ability to get my mind off things and just work on a project that I believed in. And it's sort of a backwards way of getting educated, but it worked for me. And it's not to say that NYU or other schools don't work for other people. I have co-workers that graduated college and had a blast. So I think everyone has a different way of getting to where they end up. I don't know, maybe it would have been wonderful if I had graduated, but it just wasn't the path.
Yeah, but I mean, what you're doing now too is still really successful. So either way, you're doing what you're doing, which is nice. And that too, how would you give, or what advice would you give to someone who wants to do something in this field but is too nervous to? Because I know that's something really common, especially for me. So I
think being nervous makes sense. If you're not nervous, you probably don't care. I'm nervous going into every project because I really care about it, and I know that if I don't work hard and I end up overlooking things, then that's going to show on camera. So I think one thing is to really make sure that you're always working really hard on your project, and that ends up showing off when you get it to the edit bay and you realize, okay, look at all the options I have. These are all the different footage that I have to work with, and so that work in the moment, although you may not be sure where it's going to land, will feel good ultimately.
Yeah. having said you like had depression in college, or that's what you how did you, or did that like take away like your passion for being like a film major or wanting to do film? Like, was that something that you kind of thought about, well, like, should I be doing this because you're getting like so stressed or so sad about it, or like did you know like, no, this is what I should be doing, just maybe like this isn't the place for it?
I think I always have found that working on a project is actually the best stress reliever, because it gives me something to do that I really care about and enjoy doing. So I think that's part of why college maybe, and I don't mean to rag on college too much, but that I would be working on something maybe that I didn't fully care about.
Yeah. And
I thought I had the capability to go out and work on stuff that I would believe in and could maybe have some form of success. So I think if anything, the opposite, the more work that I have, the more that my brain feels stimulated and like I'm able to work on something that maybe could make a difference. And so that ultimately is almost the best medicine.
Because your podcasts and your shows focus more about kind of not exploiting, but kind of just like bringing attention to things that are serious and people don't really like to, or like don't want to bring attention to. Where did you come up with that idea where like this is what you wanted to like convey or show in your films or podcasts, etc.?
I think, the first movie in a lot of ways started because I was close with my grandfather, and he had dementia and was forgetting my name and forgetting all sorts of things. And he was in this nursing home with 300 other senior citizens, and a lot of them, didn't have family or friends and were kind of forgotten individuals, overlooked by society. And so I think that was kind of the catalyst, and I started thinking, well, what if I documented other people that we sometimes forget about or maybe don't think of as great characters on television, that would be a really interesting and could even be an entertaining story to tell if you find the right characters.
Did you ever like build, I know you did with Chad, but like build such a strong connection to one of those people that it was just hard for you to leave, or like you wanted to help, or like Danielle, was that her name? Like, did you ever want to like help her? Did she ever like want help or ask for anything like help from you?
Yeah, of course. It's happened, and I think with her, there was a thought that I had of, which I, maybe I did, is give some money or get her an apartment or help with school. For her, I think, though, she had never had anyone in her life that showed that they cared about her.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was giving her a cell phone and saying, here's my number, call me. Yeah. She just had never had that very kind of foundation that a lot of us take for granted, where there was a friend that was there for her. Giving her an apartment or a job, she never had those things, so I don't know, they may have just kind of come and gone. Whereas showing what a real friend is, that sort of thing hopefully lasts forever. So for me, that was the priority, opposed to just kind of trying to throw money at a person or a situation.
Do you think she would have like taken it like offensively too if you were to be like, oh, like let me help you out, or do you think like she would take it more like to consideration that you were like there to like, I don't really know over this, but like,
no,
I'm trying to.
I don't think she ever, more or less, ever asked for money or things. I think she did understand that my primary hope was to provide support. Yeah. And I think she was, we were about the same age, and she understood that was she was really grateful for that. Yeah.
How do you approach people when you want to start like documenting their life? Like, how do you like approach them as like introducing yourself and your idea and like what you want to do with like the footage that you get?
I spend most of the time just listening and trying to stay in the moment. It's easy to be filming, listening, and you start thinking about, oh, maybe I should film this tomorrow or ask this question later on. So it sounds kind of basic, but it's being able to stay in the moment, really hear, really listen to what someone is saying, maybe the subtext, maybe what they're kind of saying subconsciously, and asking follow-ups to those questions, while at the same time not feeling like you're being too invasive or asking questions that maybe they're not ready for yet. So it's definitely like a fine balance. There's never a perfect, way of doing it, but there's definitely an element of being sensitive.
If you were to bring back like World of Jenks, do you have any ideas of like what you would film next, or like the next episode?
We tried to go and film in Afghanistan or Iraq, but it was too tricky between the military and Viacom and insurance. But I think it'd be cool to just do a season with just me and Chad.
I think that would be good. I think you could bring that back.
Yeah.
I think so. Would it be on MTV or your own?
I'd be happy for that to be anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I think we all would.